Good to be back for the almost to the end of the induction. This is going to be the second to the last session, actually, just to break the ice to you guys. But tomorrow morning we're going to be wrapping up. So this session we have a guest speaker, which I'm very certain our community manager has done well to share the flyer with us in the morning. So very soon we're going to have our guest speaker speak to us. I'm going to do a little bit of introduction before he speaks, but I'm sure he's already in our midst. So do well to listen and follow through with all the gems that's going to be dropped today again. Okay. So just react with your favorite emoji or anything, just to show that you can hear me properly and you're excited about the next session. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have Christopher in our midst today. Christopher Fessner is a highly experienced security cloud solution architect at Microsoft with over 20 years of experience in advanced infrastructure and cloud architectures, information security management, operational security, IT service management, project management, mentoring, and coaching. He is an expert in cybersecurity and a trusted advisor to clients, known for designing and implementing secure and robust cloud solutions that meet their specific needs. Is committed to helping organizations prevent and defend their data assets in the digital age. Christopher's technical acumen, industry knowledge, and ability to communicate complex security concepts make him a valuable asset to any organization. So join me in welcoming Christopher this afternoon as he takes us through his own session. Thank you very much, Christopher. It's good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here. So it's a pleasure to join you here, sharing a little bit of what's going on. Yeah, and I share a little bit of what I've prepared. Hold a second. Visual stuff makes it easier to follow me, maybe. Hold a second. How can I see this here? Yep. So now a short slide deck should come up. OJ, maybe you can confirm, or
it's up now.
Yeah. So thank you for having me here. Pleasure talking to you guys. Yeah. So working in this industry since a while is great stuff. Yeah. So I love quotes, and so I thought I start this here with a short quote. There's so much stuff out there which is motivating me to have things, like that you are curious, that every day drives you, that you can reinvent what you are doing, maybe also adjust things. And if you look into this, and I'm coming later where I was coming from and what I have done, so you will see that there's a lot of movement in this industry as well. But stay with this to have this some kind of curiosity for things what you can do, and this is not limiting you in directions of opportunities which are in this tech sector here. So as you are going into the training, learning things from scratch, from zero to hero, there are much options what you can do. And so I'm this person. I'm curious since I'm born, and maybe sometimes it's a little bit nervous for people, but this is another story. If I'm going deeper into this, well, I'm not sure why it's not moving on. Working in IT needs some support. If we compare this, when I started a while ago, everybody was digging on old technology, and this is a nice thing. What I'm enjoying every day is that I'm working in an industry which is moving, where you have innovations coming up all the time. Maybe short intro into what I'm doing today. I'm a security cloud solution architect working for Microsoft, so I'm very, very in front of new things, attacks, threats, whatever is coming up in the security industry. And I'm working on the on the good side means I'm preventing customers that things happening working on architectures. So it's totally interesting what I'm doing here. And if I'm comparing this, when I started, yes, good old phones were there as an analogy. And yeah, after a while, everything went much more modern. Yeah, so who could imagine 15, 20 years ago what direction we will take in the era of smartphones, smart devices, what you can use, where you can have information, mobile internet. When I started, internet was something local. You used a modem. Yeah, so now you have an idea how old I am. And when you compare this to today, there was always movement. Even now, innovation is still there, and we are doing additional things to improve areas in this world. Same here. As I mentioned, I'm a cloud solution architect. Means, yes, I was in old data centers, not this one, it's just an example. But when I started, there was a lot of hardware, a lot of heat, a lot of power consumption in these areas where I worked in. It was loud. You had some kind of air conditioning. I'm not missing this part, to be honest, but to give you an idea, there was always innovation driving things forward. And the newest thing, I'm working in the cloud business since 2013, I would say. So I was an early adapter, to say it in other words. That's also something where I stayed curious. I'm an early adapter for things, and it's a lot of fun, and it's driving me. Today, yes, it's much more. I never have been in the last 2, 3, 4 years in a data center, but they are still existing. Same here at Microsoft. Yeah. So when we're talking about our Azure cloud, or if you're going into our competition with Google or AWS, you see there are massive amounts of data centers delivering this service, but the things changed. I'm not swapping hard drives anymore. I'm more on the architectural side. Means that I'm dealing with things like designing reliable infrastructures, or working on stuff where we are figuring out how a customer can do things different. Give you a rough overview. So I started very early while I was at school in mid of the 90s. And you see, I moved always on. And I learned so much things. And this is what I underlined so many times now with staying curious. Yeah. So there was always something what was driving me. In the 90s, it was Linux. Linux was the new thing. Everybody was doing Windows, or OS2 was out on the market, yes, or pretty other operating systems. And I figured it out for me. And this was becoming a profession. I made a vocational education, means that I learned it technically in a company where I was working a few days, going to school. Later on, I set on top a business administration degree with marketing focus. As you see, I'm not a 100% dedicated technical person. I did also around things. Yeah? And you see, moved on from the customer side. So I was working in the healthcare and health provider vertical. So Siemens Healthineers is the brand of the company today. As I worked there, it was a different one. They got acquired. But it was totally nice to learn things, how it's used, and the applications are running, and why we are running things like that. So I enjoyed my time on the customer end of the business. And in 2008, I made my personal decision to move on to the vendor side. So I was hungry, learning more, going more into the direction, be the first, be in front of new challenges. And so on the vendor side, you can do a lot of this stuff. So I was going into the network business, learned a lot about local area network stuff. Yeah, so I had plenty of knowledge during this role I had in 2008 to 2012. I shared all my knowledge and gained new knowledge. So as you see, it's a never stopping learning experience. And that's what I'm liking in these industries, so that you can move forward, get additional stuff, having new experiences, and that if you are if you're bored by doing things, that you can have a look to the left and the right and look what is additional there. So that's my understanding how things are working. You can see this in my career path, because after the local area network and wireless experience, I moved on to building data centers, And I had always a profession in security. That's why I moved in 2015 into the security space. So working for a vendor who is dedicated 100% on security stuff, network, also cloud later on, and spent my time there. That was also a great experience. And you see, between 2015 2019, I made again adjustment to myself. That's what it's mean by these initial quote where you are saying, okay, I'm moving forward, or I'm not ready for that. It's not a problem. You can step down, you can readjust this for your needs. And that's what I like a lot. For me, is staying at the same point, stopping this development would be very, very hard, because I like that a lot. Maybe let's see how the next 10 years, 20 years are working. But this is something I enjoy really in the tech industry, that you can go in two directions where you are having big interest into, where you're saying, okay, that's something I want to ramp up, I want to be an expert in, or where you're saying, okay, I want to work in this space, gain experience, use this experience in different areas, so everything is possible. But you need to move. That's the most important thing, and to stay curious. So there are very, very public quotes from Steve Jobs or something like that: stay hungry, stay foolish. Yeah, so things like that. That's really true. And growth mindset, what we have here at Microsoft, is also something what I like a lot, because my company is looking for that. I'm going forward, that I'm learning new things, adapt them, and share them with others, like we do here right now. So since 2020, I'm now here in Microsoft. Total different experience, great company, great from what we can do here, great from how many people are working here, how much smart people, and how we are sharing this growth mindset attitude. So that's something what I can really elaborate and say, wow, it's a nice ride since mid of the 90s. Yeah, so every time there was something new coming up, so it was never boring. That's something I want to share with you here. And I'm more focused on infrastructure, but you can apply the same thing if you're in application development, if you're in machine learning expertise or something like that. It's always that you need this curiosity to get into something. Yeah? So if you are not driving it on your own, there are so many resources which can motivate you to do things, but you need to go through that. And it's fun to see how things are changing, how things are adapted, how this industry is aligning to what the business is requiring, what people are requiring. So we are not always talking about professional environments. We also think about the consumer business. So what are people doing at home with smart home or consuming social media, things like that. And you're part of this. So that's my speech for now. Stop sharing now to see OJ and Co.
No, thank you very much, Christopher. That was brilliant. So,
Thank you.
Guys, so I've had the pleasure of working with Christopher, and I can tell you the guy knows his stuff, right? And you guys can see the journey he's been on, where he came from. And I've seen a lot of questions in the past 4 days during this induction, and you guys keep talking about your journey, and you hear the speakers repeat over and over again their journey, and you should start to see start to get a sense of familiarity, right, with that journey. Most of you are at the start of your journey. Some of you actually are taking maybe a few steps into it, and it's a journey. You're going to learn a lot. A lot of you think you'll do it all in one day. Look at I like the timeline that you shared, Christopher, because that's just brilliant. Like, you guys look at that timeline and look at the changes, even as recently as 2-3 years ago, right? You can see there's still evolution, and he's already talking about the future. So get started, get stuck in, enjoy the process. Like, just take it all in, and you'll see your journey too. We've got a few questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, I just stepped in and answered one by chat, but we can do this also on the voice level, OJ.
Please go ahead, as in it would, because some of them don't see the chat. I think we've had a few feedback that not everybody sees all the messages in the chat. So if you pick the questions, just go for it and just also.
There was recently one question: is it okay to move from an architect to a cloud engineer? And I answered already in the chat, but let's add some more context to this. Why not? Yeah. So I see people moving in two different directions, and it's sometimes the case that you are burning for something new you want to do, and then you are 3 months in that and you recognize, ooh, okay, that's not the hands-on experience, or it's too much hands-on experience. It can be vice versa, and you're deciding and saying, okay, I want to become more hands-on person. Yeah, so I'm staying with this, and I don't see there a problem. Sometimes, yeah, in the old days, in the past days, I would say, when you're making career decisions, you need to have an argument for this. So it means, why are you moving out from architecture role? Yeah. If you have a good statement for this, I don't see any issue for that. It also aligns to what you are planning from a career perspective for yourself. If you're saying, okay, I'm open to this and this is not important for me, you can move up, down, all the way in different directions, whatever you want to do. For me, the most important thing is to have fun on things, that it's interesting what I'm doing, and then that there's a relevance for what I'm doing. Yeah. In the last 9 months, sustainability was becoming more important here in my home country in Germany. Yeah. So with restrictions in regard of power consumption, things like that, and also our cloud thoughts are around this. And what I want to say with this is, yes, I'm in security, but it has also some facets where I'm talking about sustainability. And you see with what I'm saying that I'm also looking into this. Maybe I have a main focus and drive this as a hobby or a sidecar to go through that, but I enjoy things like that, to have some fresh thinkings around. And that's what I can give here back on this question. Is there a move possible? For sure. Yeah, but have a good argument for that.
Great. Thank you very much, Christopher. Thank you very, very much. I think there's another question here. Can someone with zero knowledge of tech go directly to a cloud engineer and catch up?
As I started, everything was around hardware. Today, I would say, why not? If you are going into this direction, you do not need to deal with things like how are networks working or something like that. What I'm not saying is that you need to have an understanding of this, because you require this as well in the cloud. But I saw many people who joined from a foundational education and experience directly the cloud environment. So it's a new technology delivery. So nobody is talking anymore about having bare metal data centers where you have the servers and the storage and things like that. If you understand the main concepts, how things are attached together, how compute is working, how networking in the cloud is working, then you can also go into this direction. Yeah.
Okay, possible. Thank you very much, Christoph. Thanks
welcome.
a lot. The next one says, as a cloud security architect, does this role function the same way as a DevSecOps engineer based on the security title within it?
There's a difference. Yeah, so I tried to mention this already with hands-on. As an architect, you have much more formulation topics. Yes, you are looking more into strategic developments, how things are set up, how they are fitting into business processes, how they are fitting into security concepts, things like that. If you make DevSecOps, you're in the operational mode. Yeah, it means you're going in, you're adapting things the developer is creating, what you're bringing over into an environment. So what I'm describing is more a DevOps person. If you make DevSecOps, you're adding the facets in the job of a security person as well. I would not compare them directly, but if you are working in an architecture role, you have a common understanding of what's going on there. And maybe also you are practicing and trying to gain experience about what this is about, and to get an understanding what maybe are the limitations, or where you need to take much more care than in other areas. Yeah, but it's different.
Right. All right. Thank you very much for clarifying that. So this is a more personal question. Say, what are the challenges you've experienced in the process of your journey so far?
Oh, one more time. Can you repeat? Was too fast for me. Sorry.
It says, what are the challenges you've experienced in the process of your journey so far?
Oh, yeah. Too many things came to my attention, and I love to go into different areas in the same time. Yeah, as you saw, I went into the local area network and wireless stuff. Same time, security was interesting. For me, good it was. My company I worked for had an offering for security as well. So I was satisfied with this. But this distraction I see is something where I would say, yes, you should look what is most important for yourself, to have a focus that you're not struggling, having the wish of two different things, and then later on you're saying, oh, okay, maybe the other one was the right one. Yeah, so flip a coin, figure out, roll a dice to find the right one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
my
this is
secret
unrelated.
talk today.
All right. Thank you very much. This is unrelated, guys, but that might actually also be an answer to people that have been thinking of doing cloud and data together. So I think what Christopher just sort of advised us again now is to just go with one and be all in it. Okay, don't mix it together. So what is the first step to take, or first thing to have knowledge about when moving into the tech industry as a whole? I want to help with this, Christopher. What is the first step to take, or first thing to have knowledge about when moving into the tech industry as a whole?
I would say explore what is the most common brand, what you're using on a daily basis. That can be something sitting in front of a Microsoft laptop or an Apple or a Chromebook, whatever, and figure out what direction you want to take. Yeah. So for me, as I started, the internet was coming up. Unbelievable. Yeah. So it's almost 25 years back when this happened. And for me, the first step was I started into web design. So making some kind of HTML, not comparable to what happens today with Angular and all this kind of stuff. But this was a starting point for me. And after a while, I figured out, there's much more behind that. So find one anchor where you can start, figure this out, make some test emotions with this stuff to see if there's more, because there's always more. And that's, again, for the question before, a good point to say, is this the direction I want to go? Does this last for the next 2, 3, 5 years? So the tech industry is very fast. You have a turnaround every time. You see currently 5 years now, security is very important. Security will stay because you have a lot of stuff which is coming from the bad actors. But on the other hand side, in the other industries, you see ChatGPT is today what my employer is doing today. It's very, very popular right now. And maybe this is also bringing some interest to you. So I cannot give a direct answer to this. You should match this for what is your motivation. Also not only a tech motivation. Sometimes you're thinking about some common good where you're saying, okay, that's good for the community. That's something I want to contribute to. Yes, that was my thought when I started this Linux stuff, because at this time everything open source was very, very popular, and you could learn and connect to many, many people.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your speech. Really inspiring. I'm reading the comments. Just wanted to know the similarities and differences in security cloud engineer and cybersecurity engineer. And is the career path the same for both?
Mainly, you have to deal with the similar things. If you are saying cybersecurity engineer and cloud security engineer, it depends a little bit on what kind of technology you're using. If the cybersecurity engineer is more general, it's again the concepts. If you understand how things are connected together, how services are working, how you can misuse these services, all this kind of stuff, these are similarities. If you're looking for the cloud security engineer or the security cloud engineer, you will mainly focus on stuff which happens in the cloud. That can be limited a little bit, because In the hardware defined world, you have much more parts which you can move. Yeah? But as the base, I would say, yeah, they are coming from a very similar foundation. Yeah.
Right, thank you. So there's a comment here. I'm just going to read out for the sake of others. He says, so true. I think the person was responding to an answer was provided by Christopher. So true. I battled imposter syndrome for a while, just thinking I was supposed to learn everything in a month or so.
Oh.
From Christopher's journey, it is actually a journey. And Blessing responded to true. So others as well, if you're in case you're experiencing that, it's actually all the journey. Just get comfortable with the journey, and you get to tell a story like Christopher, and also get to the position I used today, and probably even better. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Christopher, for your journey and for sharing it with us.
And don't imposter. It's a journey. You cannot learn everything in one day. I need to reality check every day. So I'm very impatient. So stay patient.
All right. Thank you very much. It says, how important is the knowledge and skills one has from cybersecurity relevant to cloud engineer and also solution architect?
Yeah, it depends always a little bit on experience. There are some voices in the market, especially in the security area, which are saying it's not important to have experience in this area. You can learn everything. But sometimes you have situations similar in the cloud solution architecture area. You need some kind of base knowledge and foundations. And this is important, that you know how are services working, how you set up things, what are the ports, the protocols, what is sensitive when you're designing things. And for me, as I started bottom up, it was always good to have this experience as an engineer. If you're moving fast, you can make things earlier, yeah, but don't lose the passion for things. And this is important, because when you're going to the next level, you are treating things maybe different. Yeah? When you're an architect, you are not that deep in the technology anymore. It depends on your personality, but to speak this in general, it's something where I would say, do this step by step. It's like in these imposter question or statement here, same here. Everything takes time. And if you're moving into this, if you are smart, learning and adapting very fast, then you can decide what direction you want to do. So it took me a while to go into the solution architecture. If I'm looking into this today, roles are also changing, and nothing is fundamental in title. Yeah, so it's also the job description behind that. So an engineer can do things, but maybe in some companies the role is different, and you're titled a solution architect but doing a job of an engineer. So have a look for this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Christopher. We seem to still have more questions, so hope you're patient enough to take it. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. It says this person says, what is the ideal target first? What's the ideal target first? Certification or hands-on? I'm asking because most times it is hard to get a shot at jobs when one lacks the necessary certifications. Now, Blessing providing some answers here, but I would like you to also please help us clarify on this.
Yeah, so if you ask me for this, certifications are nice. I'm also going for this. If you look into my LinkedIn profile, you will get a blast of how many certifications I took in 25 years. One of my friends said, hey, that's not lasting in 1 or 2 pages with small characters, but it's a statement that you did something. I'm a person, I would say, if you have hands-on experience, that's something which you should become broad of. If you're doing a certification to reflect also in the market that you did something, that's also fine. But don't go for a marketing first strategy to take certificates, because you can learn everything, put this in your brain and replay this in an exam. But sometimes these exams are missing that you are understanding how things are working together, how processes, how they are integrated. Yeah. And I would prefer to go for the hands-on stuff. As I built the teams, I was also looking for this, a balance between how is the person certified, what is the education for this, and also the hands-on experience, also asking questions. So having certificates is not always a guarantee for something. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. I think that's that's detailed. That response you just gave answers this person as well as a namesake to you, Christopher. He asked, over the course of your journey and growing from one path to another, what made you confident enough to move into this new path and field? And were certifications necessary for this growth?
It was sometimes that I was asked for it to move on. Yeah. So companies ask, hey, we need this kind of experience, which you gained already with your hands-on job or with the challenges you faced. So I joined them. The others were that I was so interested in new stuff. Yeah. For example, when I moved from wireless technology to data center, I saw a trend on the market and I said, hey, well, what they are doing, there's always a trade-off. You will learn new stuff and you bring in experience. And that's a joke point I'm taking when I'm saying, okay, I want to move into this. In 2013, with this company where I was in the data center business, started something new, a virtualized network device. And I was the ambassador for it in Europe. Yeah. So I started going around with IBM, Fujitsu, all this kind of stuff. And for me, it was cool because I did know virtualization. I was already with experience in the security market. And it was interesting to see, will this new strategy and this new service, will it become successful? Yeah, it became successful. It's today part of AT&T. So the company was sold. But the experience I gained from it to learn how service provider would see this, how traditional hardware selling companies would see it, was tremendous for me. Yeah. So I would always say, you will find this out yourself if you're ready for the next chapter. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Christopher. So I'm just going to read out the response Blessing also gave here. It said, jobs come to those who are competent. Competency is the key word. Certificates are not an end in themselves. They are a means to an end, competency. So if you cannot see the response to the questions that I think I just read it out for you, supported with Christopher's response. Thank you guys a lot. Another question here says, I have an interest in architecture and also engineering. How cumbersome is it to learn both?
I think when you start as an engineer, you will learn a lot about the architecture part. So if you go the direction up all the way, and I'm not this person see architecture as a hierarchy. It's more a challenge. What is the next level? As you saw from how I was introduced, it's how you can bring complex statements into an easy understanding. Yeah? So for example, when I'm dealing as a cloud solution architect with technology, I have foundation stuff like firewalls, like networking. And when we are going deeper, there's something organizational around this. And this is something, again, when you are an engineer, it's cool. If you're moving on, learning, figuring out how you can transport these thoughts, how you can make designs, how architectures can look like, and they are sustainable, then you can move on to this as well. Yeah. But coming back to this, starting point can also be if you're saying, okay, everything is fine. I can do all this kind of stuff as what an engineer is doing. Move on to an architecture role if this is your wish and your goal in the career. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. With your goal, which aligns with your career. Okay. Over the course of your journey and growing from one path to another, what made you confident enough to move into this new path and fields? And were certifications necessary for these goals? Okay, I think you already answered that.
I think it's answered already.
Yeah. As a back-end developer, which is more advisable to start with? Data engineering or cloud engineering? Okay. Now I'm going to read Blessing's response, and Christopher, you're going to do us the honor of reading giving us more detailed response to that. Now, Blessing said that, Majid, well done. You have built some good background for both coming from backend development. The choice will depend on your preference, future aspirations, and passion. Either is fine. I suggest you complete the first 2 weeks of the program and see what appeals to you, then focus on and build that competency. So, Christopher, you might want to speak to this. The person has a backend development experience. So data engineering or cloud engineering, which way?
Yeah, so you can also do back-end engineering in the cloud engineering. Yeah, so it depends a little bit on the job itself, how deep you want to go. And there's always the question around what is in that for you. How can you have fun with things? How bring this you to the next level? I was a very bad software developer, so I decided to do infrastructure, as you see, and later on now solution architecture. If you're starting something, you will also gain experience from a backend developer, which you can address and use in the cloud. Yeah, so there's no limitation what I am seeing from my level here when I'm looking to this. If you're saying cloud developer, there are also so many areas and categories where you are developing that I would recommend have a focus on what is the stuff you want to go into. Yeah, so it can be automations, it can be machine learning or artificial intelligence. Yeah, and then figure out, is this something what I want to do on a daily basis in this profession? Yeah? Hard for me to answer.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, it's a very energizing one, basically. Since you said hands-on is more important, is it okay to conclude I should go for engineering first before architecture? Because I genuinely have passion for both. In as much as I want to know the technical part, I also want to share my knowledge and create solutions. Want to help you there? Or I can go ahead and read the question again.
I'm going through it. I'm a visual person. Sorry for that.
Okay.
Technical part, I want to share my knowledge and create a solution. Yeah, that's self-driving for me. Yeah, so if you're saying, okay, I want to go into this first, learning all this kind of stuff, there's so much things to learn, and that's something it was asked already, how to focus on things. Yeah, it's always a bet what kind of technology is coming, what is going to the next stage. Yeah, so for me it was pretty easy because I'm more this engineer type of person. If you're saying, okay, I'm coming from a developer background and I want to do things, I saw people moving on, sometimes very sad because they lost something what they love to do. Yeah, so one of my colleagues is a cloud solution architect now. In the past, he was principal software developer, but he said, okay, I want to leave my comfort zone. That's a different story. It's some emotional thing where you're saying, I need to move. I do not want to do this until my last days. But in this case, I would say, yes, figure this out. You can do things. And that's the nice thing of the cloud, that you can gain experience. It's not when I started, when you needed big hardware, which costed a lot of money to try things. It's today, there are so many resources out on the internet and also on our cloud solution provider side, which you can use. You can get a free credit for testing Azure or other clouds. Try this out and have a look in which level you are, and everything. You can learn everything. That's my personal opinion.
All right. Thank you very much, Christopher. I think most of the questions that I hear now, you've already touched on them at some points. You've already answered them. So I would just ask you to give us maybe some last words, some things that we can go away with, just to I can provoke our thought process from here onward.
Yeah. So famous last words. Stay focused on this stuff. What you're learning here. As said, try things out. Fail fast. If you are saying, oh, okay, that's not the thing, how it works or how the direction could look like, there is not a dead end in the career. You should try different things. And this is my personal path I used. Yeah. And I wish you all the best learning new things and becoming from zero to hero. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Feel fast is the keyword for me there. Thank you very much.
That's the keyword. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. All
You're
right. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
You too, guys. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Okay, so to our next session, to our next speaker, basically, we're going to be having OJ talk to us on the next topic, which is AWS Workspace and everything in between that you might have for us. The floor is yours, OJ.
All right. I want to believe a lot of you are very pumped and excited about the direction your careers are sort of headed now. You see the opportunities ahead of you, but you also see that it's a journey. So I hope that you're inspired and this gives you resilience. So it's important that you understand why we started with an induction, right? Not just throw you straight into it. There are a lot of things you're going to encounter on this journey. I promise you. And I want you to know that at the end of the journey, you are you're going somewhere and you're going to get benefits from this, and it's going to take you to places that right now you can't even dream, right? But if you stay on that journey, if you look at listen to all the speakers, look at their journeys, they're all on LinkedIn. So it's not like we've created people that, it's not AI generated. These are real people with real experiences that you can have, right? Your journey is going to definitely be different, but you have the potential. You have it in front of you, and there's nobody stopping you. Nobody's able to stop you. Okay. What I want to do this afternoon is a bit techie. All right. So let's call this a class. You've asked a lot of questions around who's an engineer, who's an architect, and I know a lot of people that you spoke that we brought are to speak to you are architects, but I promise you that they also do a lot of engineering, like day to day. What I want to do next is talk about a challenge, right? And then walk with you, show you how we could potentially solve that challenge, right? So, and I'll start from the position of a business, then an architect, and then we'll get to the role of a cloud engineer and probably a service manager, several roles in this conversation. So most of us on this program are based in Africa. Some people, I can see the logs are from other parts of the world, and that's totally fine. But there are challenges that we face in areas of Africa, challenges including like power, availability of power. So in some other parts of the world, power might be stable, but in some parts of Africa, we don't have stable electricity. Also, internet access, right? So some of us will get the barest possible sort of broadband and data, and that might even be expensive, right? And then also, finally, the cost of hardware. So the laptops that you use. As you go on this journey, you might find yourself needing to your laptop might not do what you want it to do. You might not have enough RAM. Maybe the CPU is just not enough, or you don't have even just basic storage to download some files and stuff like that. And all of those things are concerns. Now, the concerns you have at a consumer level are similar concerns that companies around the world will have, right? They think about, okay, I have staff everywhere in the world. Do I ship laptops to all of them? If those laptops break down, do I have a support center there? On those laptops, I need to run a lot of software, right? And they have a myriad of additional, much more complex conditions or things to think about. But for you as consumers, you have at least those three issues for those people working out of Africa. So when we started looking at the scale of this program, it was one of the big considerations. How can people engage? How can they participate? How can we ensure that there is adequate, how can we solve some of these problems? And to be honest, we couldn't solve most of those problems easily. And we said, okay, fine. As part of the program, we're going to, take some of you on a longer journey. Those of you that, want to really get there, we'll take you on a longer journey. And that journey would involve you working on certain projects, possibly with some of our internal engineers in CIL, or, on projects that we're working on, or even just put you in an environment to work on a project yourself. So I started thinking, how do we do this? And we kind of got to the point where we said, okay, why don't we give them laptops in the cloud? Okay, from that's like the business solution. Why don't we give them laptops in the cloud? And we start to look at that. What will that solve? That might not solve the problem of electricity. That might not 100% solve the problem of data, but it will reduce the cost of data. And I'll explain some of these things in a few minutes. But then it definitely takes out the problem of the hardware, because I will show you Amazon. I'm going to walk through Amazon Workspaces now. Basic stuff. I'll share my screen, show you some basic stuff. But the point I want to emphasize, right, in this in the next few minutes around what I will share is how this starts as a problem, right, and becomes a solution that engineers, right, deliver, okay, as a platform for use, okay. And I will show us that. I'll walk through that. I'm going to start by starting the system because it takes a few minutes to start. So I'll share my screen now, and then I will sort of start the process. I will put a URL in the QA section where you guys can sort of copy that URL. You can read it, read up on it later, understand the particular service I'm using. So I will focus on using an AWS service called Amazon Workspaces. But then I want you to understand that a lot of other service providers have similar solutions. Not exactly, nobody has exactly the same thing, but similar solutions. So Microsoft has its own virtual desktop service. You have solutions like Citrix, Nutanix, and a few other ones out there that gives you sort of workspace or access to workspaces in the cloud. Okay, but what I want to show you today is Amazon Workspaces. So first thing is I've sent you the URL, so you guys should have that. I'll share my screen and I'll just start something. I want you to know that I understand that some of you might know or understand what I'm showing, but some of you might not. But that's 100% fine. Okay, don't overthink it. Right? It's a journey. Okay. Hopefully some of you can see my screen. I just need some confirmation that a few people can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, just if you put a yes, oh, perfect. Thank you. I see that. All right. So I'm logged into an AWS console right now. I usually make my stuff tiny because I like to put a lot of information in front of me. So I am going to change that a bit because I have had feedback before that my screen is not usually visible. Okay. Now I want to show you a few names. I'm putting these names here because you know them, or I believe you know them. So this is Cornelia. You spoke to her. I think she was. You guys asked her questions on the fireside chat. I think yesterday. You guys know Joan. So if you don't know him, you've not been on this program. John Toriola is one of our cloud engineers also at Secure Intelligence. Now, as you can see right now, this guy is showing that it's available. That means it's running, right? There's someone probably using this system right now. John is probably on the system. I'm going to create one for myself, okay? And then I'll kind of step back and come back into this, how we got to this point. So I'm going to select a directory. A directory is just where my identity is going to come from, my username, my password, all that kind of stuff. It's a Microsoft Active Directory, right? It has a domain name. All those things, I believe that over the course of this program, you would become more familiar with. Now, I'm going to find myself in the directory. So where am I in the directory? This is my name in the directory, and I go next. Okay, now I am going to look for the kind of system I want. I want to use a Windows box. Okay, I also I just want it base. I don't need any Microsoft additional stuff on it. I will go for a performance one. Like this is about the CPU size, RAM size, and stuff like that. Any protocol, I will go with WSP because of something that I know, but I don't want to have to explain now because that's a lot of explanation that might not make sense to you. 1 second, please. Sorry, I just had to attend to something domestic. All right, now back to the, so now I'm going to choose the 2019 server to run this on, just because that's sort of the latest, the earliest year. That's the only reason I'm choosing that. And then I want this to auto stop, you know, at a frequency every hour. If I'm not using it within an hour, I want it to stop. I'm going to tag it. Okay, I want to say who's managing this guy. Okay, this is managed by support at CIL Academy. Right, so just in case this has an issue, someone's going to come here and say, okay, who manages this? And then they can reach out to that email address. And then I go on. Now, in enterprise settings, you won't be able to, they won't let you create this without encryption. For reasons that you guys will understand further down the course, I'm not going to encrypt this. I'm going to go for a volume that I believe is suitable. Okay, and then that's all of my configurations selected, and my workspace is getting created. That is getting created. This could have been done also using some sort of automation, triggering the API or other types of automation, things that we will learn alongside during the course. But I've just done this on the console because this is this makes the process much more consumable or visible for you guys. Now I'm going to step back and go into a drawing tool, draw.io. Now I would use terms and that you might be familiar with or not. Please do not overthink it. These are things that we expect that you will learn during the course. Now, I have launched this workspace in Ireland, okay? And there's a reason, there's a very good reason for that, right? I want it to be as close to me as possible, but I also know certain things about AWS's Ireland region. That means that is where I want to launch this particular workspace, right? So you can see that I have made a decision to launch that in Ireland. So this region here is Ireland, and in AWS language, that is EU West 1, okay? We're working on a design together now, okay? And now I have created a VPC, right, to launch it within my own virtual private cloud, right? And that VPC, I have given it, I've sort of micro-segmented the network into subnets and all of that. So my VPC looks something like this. It has some public subnets. And also it has some private subnets. I'm going to take you guys back into the AWS console because as much as we're designing, I also want you guys to get a feel for what we're doing, right? So this is my VPC within the AWS console. I'm opening that in a separate tab so that you guys see that this workspace is still loading, okay? It's still building itself, starting, whatever you want to say. It's still ongoing. I have 2 VPCs in this particular AWS account and region. So lots of VPCs within the account, but in this particular region, I have 2. One of those VPCs is where our LMS is hosted, okay? And then this is the second VPC. So this is what the VPC is. I have used the, I'm going to show you with the AWS wizard. I'm not going to explain all of the technical stuff here, because there are things that you will learn over the course of time, but just quickly run you through. So this is the VPC box. These are my subnets. As you can see, I have 9 subnets, okay? Some of them are public, some of them are private. What that means is some of them can contain public IP addresses that are directly reachable, and some of them contain only private IP addresses that are not publicly reachable. And then I've got route tables. Route tables tell you how you can get from one network segment to another network segment. That's what those route tables do, and there are quite a number of them, because using that, when we get to designs, you will start to understand they might not necessarily, you might not necessarily need so many route tables, right? You might just need 2, and sometimes you might need a lot more. Depends on how you want to go about with your microsegmentation and a lot of other things that you would typically do in networks. Now we also have network connection. So how does the you can see that this is a really good wizard from AWS, because the moment I select like this network connection saying internet gateway, you can see the path. It's showing me that the 3 subnets, okay, that can use this internet gateway to get to the internet. It's highlighted them for me, and it's also showed me where the routes table that contains the information, the routing information for those subnets to get through the internet gateway, where they are. So you can see it there's a lot of help. This did not exist a few months ago. All right, this wizard is fairly new, but it just helps to really explain what the network there looks like. Now you can see that for this NAT gateway, I'm saying anything that wants to go outside, all right, but I don't want them to be reachable directly from outside. I want them to go through a network address translation, right? And for that, there are 2 route tables that use this NAT gateway, this particular NAT gateway, as a route for these 2 subnets, and it goes on and on and on. So networking, a lot of things there. Now, if I come back into my design, I have created, as you can see, there are 9 subnets there, right? So let me just show you what those 9 subnets look like. Something like this. Okay. Now, I talked about an internet gateway. Okay, so there are icons, there are different icons you can use in design. There are AWS icons from AWS. So there's so many tools you can use. I just prefer draw.io, right? But there's so many tools you can use. And as as a cloud engineer or a data engineer, you're going to use these kind of tools a lot, because I promise you, like usually 70% of your audience, they don't understand what you're saying when you explain this to the business teams or to the project teams or to your customers. They won't understand what you're saying, but the diagrams help them understand. And even when you're trying to explain something else to your colleagues, right, those diagrams, they help a lot. So being able to create those diagrams yourself, right, will help you significantly as you continue to develop in your career. So, and it's practice. Don't think that oh, the way I'm dragging it, I'm just dragging it. I have done this so many times that when I start to drag it, I'm thinking about every other object that I might be placing on the board. So I'm pulling up an internet gateway. This is what an internet gateway would typically look like in this diagram. So it's on the edge of the VPC, right? In the sense that it can, I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. This is the, yep, that's the NAT gateway. So typically I put it on the edge. Most people put it on the edge, or you can put it in the center also, but it's at the VPC level, right? And it is not at an availability zone level. So as you can see, this is the region. I have chosen to go with 3 availability zones that are available, but I have not put my internet gateway within an availability zone. I have put it at the region level, at the VPC level. The VPC is at a regional level. This is peculiar to AWS, right? So you might go to other cloud service providers and the VPC is global. It's not regional, right? Google, for those of you that are familiar with their platform, but at the end of the day, it's still, we're talking about a network, a chunk of network, right, that we have carved out within the cloud service providers environment. So we've got our internet gateway there. I made reference to it earlier. Now, you also notice, if you recall, within that, when I was on the console, there was something called a NAT gateway, right? I'm just going to pull up the NAT gateway. Where is it? Where is it? Don't hide from me. Nah, not the load balancer. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, so we've got the NAT gateway here. So in my own design, I'm actually using 3 NAT gateways, I think. So this is how the NAT gateways are set up. And the NAT gateways, because they are network address translators that are saying these guys in the private subnet, they can't speak the language of the internet. So this guy will translate their own network and provide the internet with a public facing IP address that they can engage the internet with. So anybody within the public subnet, right, can talk directly out to the internet because they've got public IP addresses. But the guys here, nobody is going to listen to them with that IP address, even if they could hit the internet. Nobody will listen to them because the internet does not route those private IP addresses. Okay, and then we have this. Now, I talked about a directory service, right, where our names are and stuff like that. And that is, I'll represent that because that's also within this VPC. I've put one within the VPC. I could use, I'll use this. I want to use a different one, MS. Okay, I'll just use this. So what I did was I put a directory service there called the domain for that directory. For those of you that understand that, is ad.academy, I think .com. I'm not so sure if I put a .com there, but that directory has 2 domain controllers, right? So terminologies that you would have to pick up and you will learn as we go along. And this is where identity is. So who am I? OJ Adekoya. What is my password? Blah, blah, blah. They're stored in this. Now, to the services that we were talking about today. I'm going to go to business. Should be, where is it? No. Sorry, give me a second. Let me just search. Workspace. Okay, there we go. So the workspaces are laptops in the cloud, and this is what I've done. So they're here now. You have several workspaces in this subnet. Okay, and I can create as many as I have IP addresses within that within those subnets. Okay, now let me check if my workspace is ready. So the workspace is still pending, so it's still starting, and it's not yet fully. Cornelia's, or someone has logged into Cornelia's workspace. You can see it's available now, and she can use it. So I will go on and explain a bit more. Now, if I come into my subnets, you start to see what I was trying to explain earlier about IP addresses and all that. So I'm just looking at the subnets that I have here, and you can see that there's some naming to it, right? And you will get to learn about naming, labeling tags, and stuff like that, naming conventions, which you will quickly realize in cloud is extremely important. Because you can imagine this name, if I didn't put a name here, or I had not used a name that was very descriptive of what I was doing, how would I be able to quickly differentiate what is public subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3? You can see the subnet IDs here. There's no way I know that, right? So it's important as you go along for you to understand the things that will stand you out in your next job, right? So you go somewhere, someone says, okay, create an EC2 instance or create a VPC, and you create that VPC. You didn't even put any proper naming there. You didn't set up logs or monitoring for that VPC. You did not put tags on the resources. You know, all of those kind of things, people will see that. They will notice that in your career or in your work as you go along. So it's important that those tiny things, you know, you start to practice them from day one, right? You're creating a resource, even if it's just your account, and, oh, I know what I'm doing, that's fine. But it is the practice that makes it your behavior, your way of doing things. So that's what we try to do in CIL also, the way we go about doing things. We try to ensure that we maintain a minimum standard that is of a global nature, that this is the way you would find people doing it in Facebook, in Google, in Microsoft. That is how we want to do things, and that is what we hope that you guys pick up on as we go along in this program. I mentioned internet gateway. As you can see here, this is the internet gateway I was referring to, right? This guy here, that's the guy sitting on the edge that allows the communication with the internet. And also I talked about NAT gateways. I actually had 3. So you can see I have 1 in each subnet, in the public subnet, and each one of them has a public IP address. Now, you guys, you will get to organizations, and you realize that even public IP addresses are private information they don't want you to share with anybody in the world, because it just exposes them. So now you know the public IP address, you know it's on the internet. If you're a bad guy, bad actor, you can start to, you know, attack it. But the reason I am very comfortable sharing this is because this is on AWS's global infrastructure. AWS will cut it down. If you try to start brute forcing or DDoSing this particular IP addresses, the public ones that I'm showing you, I don't even need to raise my hand. AWS will fight you. But I don't mean they'll fight you literally, but I mean they have security controls in place to protect that, because it's a managed resource. Now, if you go into AWS, you launch a server, you give it a public IP address, right? And you put it in a public subnet. Now, people, bad actors can come for that, right? Now, it does not mean everything will get, all the attacks will get through, but there are a lot of them that will get through, because AWS will not be able to tell whether this is what you really wanted or not. So they are not obliged to just stop bad actors, right? You need to configure certain things to protect your instance. Having said that, I'm hoping this guy will be booted now. It's still in a pending state, but while it's in a pending, I think it will soon be done. But while it's there, I'm going to go to another URL. This URL, which is when you now have a workspace, right? How do you access that workspace? So I'm going to go, this is my workspace. I'm going to go to this URL. Now, this is a URL from AWS, and what this URL contains are various binaries that helps you to use Workspaces. So remember, Workspaces at the end of the day is a laptop in the cloud. So for this laptop in the cloud, you can actually access it from using a client, a local client on your Windows server, on your iPad, on your Mac, if you're using a Chromebook or an Android tablet, or from just your browser, okay? Or you're using a Linux laptop. You just download whichever for whichever device, or you just use the web, right, on your local. Now, I have done that already, and I have Workspaces. So this is the application. I'm just going to put some things down because that's not what I want to show. So this is Workspaces, and I was talking about a directory before. So this is also, maybe I just kind of talk about that a bit. This is the directory, right, where I've created all those users. This is Microsoft's Active Directory Service, AD, right? And I talked about having 2 domain controllers. So those are servers that that in this case AWS manages them. So I don't even get to really do anything on those servers. I just configure them, and they're managed service from AWS. So it's a PaaS level of service. I want to believe some of you are familiar with terminologies like IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS. But also, even if you're not to worry. Over the course of this program, we expect that you become more familiar with stuff like that. But as you can see in this directory, I have users, and I also have some computers in that directory, and I can create stuff, and I'm connected to that directory via another means, which I will explain, or you will get to learn also further down the line. Now, if I come back to my Workspaces, okay, you can see that there's a code here that I need, and I will just find my Workspaces client download. If I go back to Workspaces, this is the registration code which your systems manager or your IT person will share with you. Okay, you will get that code. Right now, you can see that I'm showing you all of this information because I do not see the risk. Does not mean there's no risk. This registration code does not get you into the Workspace directly, right? There's still my username and password that I would need, but it's one step closer. So when you get into security, we're going to start talking about defense in depth, layered defense, right? One, if you don't have this registration code, you're further away from attacking me. But the moment you get this registration code, that is one step in. And then the next step is guess my username. And then the next step, guess my password. So if you never saw this, if you guys never saw this registration code, right, I have one layer left. It might be a thin layer, but it's a layer nonetheless. Let's see. This is taking some time. So, this is good. So it's available now. I'm going to go to my Workspace, and I'm going to put in my registration code. I'm going to go register. It's going to prompt me for my username and password. My username on this is oj.adekoya, but I'm not going to share my password with you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'll come back. Okay? Because I don't even know where the password is, to be honest. But let's go to new tab. Okay. Yep. Just give me a second. Okay. Thank you. I have too many things opened. Okay, I have pasted the password. I'm not so sure it's going to work, but I do hope it works. If it doesn't work, this will be I won't be able to show you guys, but I really hope it works. Okay, so I think my screen should be back now. Okay, so I just want to confirm, is my screen back? Yes, it is. So I'm going to sign in. Yep, I think I got the password right, so good. I guess I'm just going to log in again. I think it's still booting. It's not fully booted, so that's taking some time. I'll let that run and then I'll come back. I want to quickly explain something before I run out of time. I'm sorry, I am just running all over the place. So I want to come back here and quickly explain something because I was talking about the business, the challenge we're trying to solve here, right? So let's look at this guy. Let's say this guy is a student here, right? He's trying to learn cloud engineering. This guy has his own laptop, but that laptop might not be as powerful as he would like it to be, or with the capacity that he'll like it to be. Now, he's a data engineer, right? And there's this data set that is hosted maybe in GitHub or somewhere, right? And he wants to play around with some, I don't know. He wants to do some data manipulation, right? And he makes a call to this guy. Let's say this file here is 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes. Okay, so let's say this is 2 terabytes. He doesn't even have enough local storage here to download this guy. And even if he starts downloading this guy, it might take forever. And then his data will finish. Okay, because this is even more than watching high definition movies or ultra high definition movies on Netflix or anywhere else. So what if rather than using his own laptop, on this laptop, you actually use a Chrome browser, okay, or an application like the one I've used, running on this laptop or anybody else's laptop that he can find, right? And rather than making this connection to this, he's actually coming here on a much more powerful PC. The network connectivity here, all right, the up and down that he's doing is constant, right? It's not the 2 terabytes that he's consuming. It's a constant, I don't know, few kilobits, megabits at the end of the day, even if you spend a lot of time, right? And then you can work here on all of that data because this is a very powerful machine. And this gives you everything else that you will typically want from your local laptop. So let's see if it's loaded now. I don't know why it's not logging me in. Either it's not fully booted or something, but nah, I think I've even lost the password. But the general idea, unfortunately, this didn't work in the end, but The general idea is I can get myself a laptop in the cloud that allows me to be to actually live and work and represent myself in the cloud, as opposed to, you know, just depending on my local instance. And you might ask, what's the difference between maybe running a server in the cloud and doing the same thing? The difference is not so significant, right? This is just a laptop. At the end of the day, for if you're comfortable working off a server, also you've got a similar opportunity, so you can do that also. But what I'm trying to get you guys to think about as engineers going into the future is there are problems that you're trying to solve, right, with the tech that you've got access to and that you can manipulate, whether it's getting data from one point to the other and transforming it in the process, or if it is standing up an infrastructure that can support thousands of developers around the world, or an entire office or a group of offices, bringing in all of the considerations, identity, networking, deploying this with infrastructure as code, deploying this via CI/CD pipelines, creating environments for application developers to come and run their code, right? Running tests on all of these applications. Those are the things that I expect, and I hope that during the course of this program, you will learn and they will become, very comfortable for you to process and to be effective in delivering. And I think that's the end of it. If I can get that workspace to work before we finish, I will just show you guys what it is. But okay, I think there's actually an issue on it. Okay, but yeah, that is me done. I can answer one or two questions if we've got questions.
Okay, so let your questions start coming in, guys.
John, I'm not looking at the questions, so if you do see questions, if you can just read them out, I'd really appreciate that.
Hi, OJ. I've tried to answer lots of questions, and of course, there are over 300 people on the call, and the questions coming thick and fast. And there's one thing I want everyone to recall, because I think this is probably one of the most technical sessions we've had since Monday. The aim here is not to scare you away, because someone is saying, oh, how are we newbies supposed to understand and assimilate all of this at once? This is giving you a glimpse into what is possible. Even if you don't get any of what you saw on the screen in the last few minutes, you just have to remember that the possibility here is that you can have a machine in the cloud that is 100, a million times more powerful than the laptop you have. And that opens up so many doors, right? Think about you going to buy the kind of machine that's just been configured right now a few minutes ago. It will cost you, upwards of thousands of whatever currency you can think of in your mind. But you can just get that created in the cloud, and you can use it with an 8 gigabytes RAM, 128 gigabytes disk laptop. That is possibility. So we will take you through the basics. You're not going to be thrown into this deep end immediately, right? So don't get scared, but see the possibilities, okay? So I don't know where I will start reading questions from for you, OJ, because there are so many of them, and I do apologize if we don't answer your questions. Don't get concerned. We'll try and get to them. So OJ, how fast can you go? Let's start. Right?
I'll if you guys just point out specific ones.
I'll go with that. Okay. Well, first one is, I love your teaching style. That's not a question, that's a compliment, right? Which operating system will we be working with mainly during the course of this training? Linux or Windows OS?
Guys, it's irrelevant. okay, it's irrelevant. If you're working on Windows, you need a command, you don't know what that command is, Google it, right? If PowerShell, Google it. Like if you want to run a bash command, you don't know it, Google it. Google it. Don't think these things, right? Don't price yourself out of the market. My workspace has actually launched. I'm going to quickly share that, then I'll stop sharing it after that. But the idea is don't overcomplicate it for yourself, right? Don't, right? Learn everything. It's be confident, get the fundamentals, understand the concepts, understand the very basics. Anywhere you step into, you're going to have to learn, no matter how many years you have, no matter how many decades you have behind you. Every time you go somewhere, you're going to learn. But you're going to learn based on the fundamentals that you already have. Every time, right? So don't overthink these things. We've asked a lot of questions around programming language, this and that. All of these things will come to you. They are to solve problems, right? And if you take that mindset, you would find yourself open to new knowledge and able to take in new knowledge fairly quickly. And this is the Workspace. It's a brand new laptop. It's up and running. I can go and try to do something, blah, blah, blah. But this is my new laptop in the cloud that I can work from and, be very effective with. There are things that allow you, even within this laptop, I can make calls. I can join calls, right? Depending on the protocol that I use, okay? So there are endless possibilities, but we're trying to solve problems. You're trying to deliver solutions. It's if you go with that mindset, and that's where we will get to use cases further down in the course. If you're trying to solve problems, if you're following use cases, then you will learn faster and you will build confidence. Yeah, I'll take another question.
Well, it's an interesting one that says, OJ, please nod if your password is Kapamari Chupaco. Right, I can tell you that's not your password. So no. Are the labs going to be timed to test how well we finish the task before the time elapses?
Not exactly. So when we get into that now, we're not exactly like okay, so there's some things where we have, because we're an AWS training partner, and there's some kind of labs that some of you might be interested in that we have on our that part is not exactly free or part of this course. That exists, but when we do get into these sessions, it's not going to be about the time, right? So some of us can do things very quickly because we have experience or we learn in a certain way. Some of us will take our time. We have to go through every line, right? So when we get to that part, I think you guys will recognize whether it's a time. I don't see that in the real world where I work, right? Where people say, "Oh, if you don't do this, you're fired" or whatever. It's rare. So in life, as with learning, you're on your journey. You're going to get there. So we won't try to time box a lab in that way for this particular Zero to Techie. Other advanced courses, we might do stuff like that. But here it's about giving you confidence coming from you don't know much, you've not experienced it before, right? Now get started on your journey and feel comfortable doing that.
Thank you, OJ. Lots of compliments coming through. But this question really important. What is the difference, please, between AWS Workspace and virtual machines?
Not much. Okay. If you guys saw me log into that laptop, and if you guys have logged into a Windows server or a Linux server or whatever kind of server you've ever logged into before, you will see that the operating system is just slightly different. See, fundamentally, a server can serve. That means you can have multiple sessions connecting to it. All right. But a desktop typically, except you're doing some extra stuff on it, it will typically have one session and you're not serving people, like serving websites or serving other kind of content from it. So it has a different kind of specifications. But today there are laptops that have crazy specifications too, and you can use them as a server, right? You can serve stuff from it. So the difference is the operating system as opposed to a particular hardware thing. It's just the OS. There's some tools that might be available in one operating system for a server that you would not typically have on a desktop.
All right, I might have to take permissions from faculty to ask more questions because of time. The very quick one here on someone who tried creating a free tier account but got an error message. Emmanuel, I would say just hold off on that. If you're getting error messages, we might be able to guide you later on. Okay, so Bolanle, do we wrap up or are we able to take any more?
Thank you very much, Blessing. So I think we've done enough already. Let's give people, the students, time to assimilate from, or at least rest from what we just went through. It's quite huge, and like you already mentioned, it's sort of opening our minds to the possibilities that we get to experience in this program and the competence we can all build eventually. Thank you very much, OG, for the wonderful session, and thanks to the audience as well for staying tuned thus far. So yeah, this would be the end for today's session, and this, like I said earlier, will be the second to the last session we'll be having for the induction program. I want to say thank you and congratulations for making it this far. So tomorrow morning session will be the end of the induction program. So come prepared, come with open minds again to learn the last part of the program, and then we're going to have some fun as well. So prepare to have some fun tomorrow. Thank you very much for staying tuned, and have a very good evening.